You can make that choice. It's a dumb choice.
That would be
Like, if you really want to hang out with me in summer school, again.
I thoroughly enjoyed that.
Don't do summer school part.
I had a lot of fun.
You didn't have fun because of math, though. You had fun.
Algebra 2 is the hardest class on Apex.
It is?
Yes.
Oh.
Is it harder or easier on Apex than
Nah, geometry definitely
Nope.
is harder.
Apex sucks.
Yes. So, characteristics of quadratic functions today, dealing with standard form. Where are my notes? There are my notes. Ta-ta. Aren't they gorgeous? Standard form for a quadratic equation goes f of x equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Anything look familiar about that form? Yep.
We covered this in algebra.
Yeah, we covered this in algebra. Granted, we've covered all of these forms in algebra. The key thing I wanted to point out is, do you notice there's an A in front of it again? A is going to control some of the same things that it did before. What did A control in vertex form? Stretches and shrinks which way? Vertically, as well as opens up or down. So A is controlling those same things. Now, when it comes to standard form, I can't look at HK for the vertex because it's not in vertex form. I can't look at P and Q for the x-intercepts because it's not in intercept form. Yep.
You look at B and C.
No.
No.
Close.
It was a fair assumption.
It was. Instead, I have to start with the axis of symmetry when it comes to this. And the axis of symmetry is found by the little baby formula x equals negative b over 2a. So you look at b and a. Now, our axis of symmetry, much like with intercept form, will lead to our vertex. Because what do you know about the relationship between the axis of symmetry and the vertex? The axis of symmetry will have the x of the vertex. So negative b over 2a is the x value in the vertex. And if you have an x value, how do you find a y value? Plug it in. So technically it's f of negative b over 2a. But all that means is plug the x value in. So A will control if it flips upside down or not. So if it opens up, that means A is positive. If it opens down, that means A is negative. If it opens up, it has a minimum. If it opens down, it has a maximum. How do you find the y-intercept of any single graph ever in existence? 0 in the x. And if you have an x value, how do you find the y value? Plug 0 in. So, many of the things are very much the same. What is the domain of quadratic functions? All real numbers. What is the range? Not all real numbers. Y is either greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, depending on if it has a max or a min. The max or min, which comes from the vertex. So, shockingly enough, very, very similar to what we've already been doing. Guess what? We're label all the key characteristics and we're gonna graph. Now, there is technically one key characteristic that we're not talking about with standard form. And it's because we only talk about it in intercept form. So far. We'll talk about it in the future. And that is x-intercepts. If it's not an intercept form, we're not talking about x-intercepts. Yet. Your homework is not going to say find all key characteristics, but do you think I want you to find them all?
Yes.
Those of you who said no,
It's wishful thinking. We can help.
stop. Stop hoping. It's never a good idea. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, y equals 2x squared plus 8x minus 6. First thing I do on these ones, before I actually start calculating anything, I actually do ask myself, what is the a, what is the b, what is the c? What is a in this function? 2. What is b? What is c? -6. Make sure you're bringing positives and negatives with. But then I go into my axis of symmetry. Axis of symmetry, again, is x equals, it's an equation. The equation says negative b over 2a. Negative b. B's 8, so negative 8 is negative 8. Over 2a, so 2 times a. 2 times 2, which is 4. Does negative 8 divide by 4 nicely? Yep. If not, could I leave it as a fraction? Yeah. Simplified fraction. Could I write it as a decimal if it didn't simplify nicely? Are decimals okay? Sometimes. What's my caveat with decimals? No.
There cannot be any repeating symbols or...
You shouldn't have repeating symbols, and you shouldn't have to round. You can write it as a nice decimal, go for it. Okay, in this case, x is equal to -2 is my axis of symmetry. Axis of symmetry leads directly to what other characteristic?
Vertex.
The vertex. What do we know about the vertex so far? The x is -2. Again, if I have an x, how do I find the y? Plug it in. So for my vertex, x equals -2, so that means in my equation, 2, parenthesis, -2, close parenthesis, squared, plus 8, parenthesis, -2, minus 6. I got 2 places to plug in x. Now some people like to type this entire thing into their calculator. That's what I do. Some people prefer to follow PEMDAS. I don't care which way you do it, if you do it accurately. Speaking of doing it accurately, what is -2 in parentheses squared?
4.
4. It is not -4. When people tend to do it on their own, they tend to make that a -4. When you square a negative, it becomes positive. So that becomes +4. Now what would be between the 4 and the 2? Times. So that would all of a sudden become an 8. What's 8 times -2? -16. So all of a sudden it becomes 8 minus 16 minus 6. Make sure you're following PEMDAS correctly if you are going to do it that way. That being said, can I just put it into my calculator? Yes. What do we get? -14. My vertex is at -2, -14. I need a y-intercept. We mentioned earlier, what do we know about every single y-intercept? Its x value is 0. And if I have an x value, and I have an equation, plug it in. Here's the nice thing about finding the x-intercept when it's in standard form. Zero squared is always
0.
0 times anything is always
0.
0 times anything is still always
0.
0 plus 0 is
0.
0 plus something, or in this case minus something, is just whatever that something is. In all technicality, the y-intercept could be found by doing 0 and then whatever c is. Do you have to do it that way? No. Yes. No. During work time, you may. Which direction is this one going to open? Why up? What's not negative? A.
is not negative.
Does it have a maximum or a minimum? I heard it. Minimum. Because it opens up. And the minimum is... minimum at or minimum of is actually probably more accurate, but I keep writing at. Luke says it's negative 14. Do we agree with him? Yes. Where'd that come from? The vertex. This is feeling a little redundant to what we've done the last few days, isn't it?
Yeah.
It should. What's the domain? Range. Y is? Greater than or equal to, because it has a minimum, negative 14. Okay, so we go to graph it. Now, I decided, for no good reason, to be a little obnoxious and count by ones. Could I have counted by a different number? Yes. If you count by a different number, what do you need to do on your axes? Label them with numbers. I just counted by 1. Negative 2. Negative 14. By the way, you don't actually have to put the coordinate point next to it. If you don't want, I've been doing that just because I do that, but you don't have to. Plot the point. 0, negative 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. What's the shape of this graph? Upwards U. Which is the most important point? The vertex, the lowest point in this case, is the graph looking like this could be a lowest point, like it's supposed to be. If it doesn't look like the lowest point, something's wrong. Okay, we're going to do a partial other question like this, but then we're going to move on to the other thing you're going to see, because at this point, most of what we're doing is repetitive. So, we're just going to start this next question because I want to address a couple of the biggest mistakes that we see here. When it's in standard form, what's the thing I did first? Figure out what A, B, and C are. You don't technically have to write them down, but I do. Because it saves a lot of headaches. What is A?
-4.
-4. What is B?
-6.
What is C?
-2.
Beautiful. What do I find next? Axis of symmetry. What's the formula for finding the axis of symmetry? X equals negative b over 2a. What is negative b? Positive 6. A negative negative is a positive. It's one of the most common mistakes I see. Over 2 times a. 2 times negative 4. 6 over negative 8. Does that divide nicely? No. So what can I write the answer as? Negative 3/4 or negative 0.75. Now remember, this is a vertical line, so it should have x equals whichever one you chose to put. Is it possible for an axis of symmetry to be a decimal? Do all quadratics show up at whole numbers? No. Decimals does not mean you did it wrong. When you go to find the vertex, part of the reason why I sometimes do fractions is that decimals don't plug nicely into equations. That's why I require the no rounding or write it as a fraction. When you go to plug this in, do not forget all of the things around the x squareds. Do not forget the squared. Do not forget the negative. But I do highly recommend you just type that entire thing into your calculator. You can get decimals. For some reason, the moment people get decimals, they assume they did everything wrong, and it's the end of the world. By the way, if I think I'm doing something wrong, don't I have graphing calculator abilities?
Yeah.
Can you type this into your graphing calculator and see if you're doing things right or wrong?
Yep.
Yeah. You have a graphing calculator at your disposal. I'm not stopping you from using it. Do I want to see the points in the specific places on the graph? Yes. But you can use your calculator to give you a test. Okay. Then we would do everything else. So I'm just going to go ... etc. Because the rest of the stuff is the same stuff. I want to address the other type of question you're going to see today, because the other type of question you're going to see today is not the same as what it's been the last 2 days. The last 2 days it's been write an equation. Put the laptops away, please. Thank you. Today, it's going to have you convert the quadratic function into standard form. When it comes to writing equations of quadratics, there is not a nice way to write something directly into standard form. So we don't do the write it in standard form. We do converting into standard form because it's called standard form for a reason. It is the general equation that we want most of the time. So oftentimes we'll have situations where the equation looks something like this, which is one of our key forms. Which form is this? Vertex or intercept?
Intercept.
Intercept form. And we want to move it into standard form. Y'all know how to do this, but people screw it up all the time unless we talk about it. So we're going to address that. If I want this in standard form, essentially what I want is no parentheses involved. How do I get rid of these parentheses? Distribute. But what am I distributing? Distributing the -4 Yes. Distributing all of it? Technically, yes. Can I do all of it at once, though? Generally, no. Or there's some people out there that can do it all at once. Yes. Do I recommend anyone try to do it all at once?
No.
No, because it's too easy to screw up. I've been doing this type of math longer than any of you have been alive, and I screw it up regularly. And this is something I love to do, math. So, am I saying you can't do it? No. Do I recommend? Definitely. Clyde, you still awake? Distribute one at a time. Do you want to distribute the -4 first, or do you want to distribute the double parentheses first?
Double parentheses.
There is not a right or a wrong answer. There's just a right or a wrong way to do it. You can distribute either first. You just got to be careful and make sure you do it correctly. If you choose to distribute the -4 first, do you distribute it into the first parenthesis, the second parenthesis, or both?
Both?
Not both.
Second parentheses.
Could be second, could be first. Either is correct. But if you distribute into both, that's essentially taking a problem like -4 times some x times some y and saying, okay, I distribute, so now it's -4x times -4y, which is 16xy. What is -4 times x times y?
-4x times y.
-4xy. They just multiply once. Distributing, when there's not pluses or minuses between things, actually multiplies by the same thing twice. So that 4 either gets distributed into the first set or into the second set, not both. Here's the other thing. Once you've done the first distribution, let's say I choose to distribute that -4 first. I get -4x. I get -8. Enjoy your lunch. What am I screwing up if I just distribute the -8?
You can't just distribute the -8.
Correct, because this entirety of that -4 times x plus 2, which turned into the -4x minus 8, all of that's getting multiplied by this. Generally, when you distribute, parentheses go away. The exception to that rule is when you've got multiple multiplications. This is in parentheses, and now you need to distribute again. You need to FOIL out this time. -4x times x.
4x squared.
-4x squared. -4x times -7.
28x.
Positive 28x. -8 times x. -8x. -8 times -7. Positive 56. And combine like terms. Some people at this point then try to factor it. We haven't talked about factoring yet, but don't factor it. That is the answer. Don't go any further with it. If you go further with it and do things like factor, you're just undoing all your work. Okay, there's one other form you're going to see the equations in that's going to cause some issues. Just because we make silly mistakes. What form of quadratic equation is this in right now? It's the one thing that's not allowed in my room. I put it up here. So we'll give it back. Yep.
Vertex form.
It's in vertex form. Okay, so when we're doing this, first thing you have to deal with, since we're going in order of operations, can I combine anything in the parentheses? No, so I move on to exponents. How do I put the power of 2 on that? How do I square x plus 3? What do you mean distribute?
Square x is square 2.
You cannot. What do you think?
You multiply the entirety of the parentheses by itself, as in,
Yes.
you multiply x plus 2
By x plus 2.
by x plus 2.
You cannot distribute an exponent into something with pluses and minuses. If inside those parentheses was just like a 2x getting squared, then you could square the individual things and give me a 4x squared. You cannot do that when there's addition or subtraction, because when there's addition or subtraction, squaring a binomial is like multiplying a binomial by itself, and you have to FOIL it out, and you should end up with 3 terms once you've combined like terms. If I just square these two, I'm only getting 2 of my terms. So, squaring a binomial is multiplying it by itself. Do you want to FOIL first or to distribute the negative first? FOIL is big distribution. It's the this times this, this times this, this times this, this times this, first, outside, inside, last. X times x is x squared, x times 2 is 2x, 2 times x is 2x, 2 times 2 is 4. I just multiplied these out. I just did it quickly.
Should be an option here. Pretty good at that.
I would be terrible at that. Have you seen how many times I say the wrong number and I'm not even trying to talk fast?
That's an auto-tune.
Auto-tune doesn't fix numbers. In the meantime, focus. Shh. Okay, oftentimes I have people do this. And they call that the final answer. What did I screw up?
Where's the 3 in the negative?
Where's the 3 in the negative? Again, we're multiplying multiple things, which means this is still in parentheses with the negative in front. And that minus 3 is still there. Distribute that A value from the vertex form, in this case that negative, and then combine like terms. Again, do not go any further than that, because it can't go any further than that.